The next shape we're going to discuss is a cylinder. When shading a cylinder, you need to use a gradient value in order to achieve a realistic look. If you remember back to when we did the gradient value scale, we used long vertical lines to change our shading at a better rate than if we just used horizontal lines. So we don't want to use horizontal lines on this. You'll see that the cylinder is taller than it is wide, which is another reason we are using vertical lines to shade it this way. We will be darkening both edges, and we will be working towards the center to get our gradient lighter. In the very center of our cylinder, we need to have a highlight. If you remember to the Dragon Eye project, when we were coloring the eye and drawing it, we had to leave in a highlight. The highlight is a pure white space left from the reflection of light. So if you look in the eyes, you've got that part that's the reflected light. We call that the highlight, and it's left pure white. You're going to need to know it for today, and for when you do a cylinder, you will also need to know about the highlight. So to start off, I'm going to be using my colored pencil, and I'm going to color down on this cylinder using that nice vertical line. Okay, you want this line to be dark and saturated. Remember, saturated means full of color, so we shouldn't be seeing white spaces, but we're going to get that part put in nice and dark, because that's our darkest value right here on the edge. So you can see we're kind of moving slowly, making sure that we get that put in nice and even, not going over our lines. You'll notice that as we come towards the bottom, I'm continuing this single line all the way down. But instead of moving super quick, I slow down near the bottom so that I'm not coloring outside of the lines. If you can avoid coloring outside the lines, you should do that to begin with. As we move on to another layer, we're going to start using lighter value to create our cylinder. You'll notice I'm not choked up on my pencil. I'm holding it just a little bit farther back. You're able to control value a little bit better if you hold your pencil not right up at the tip. So I'm getting this value put in, making sure that I'm being consistent right from the beginning. It's easier to be consistent all the way across than it is to go super quick and then have to go back and fill in those white spaces. So using these nice vertical lines up and down, as you start to get lighter, you probably start moving a little bit quicker because you're not spending as much time putting in all that color. But you still need to make sure you're covering those white spaces, taking your time, slowing the edges so that you are not going outside of the lines. A lot of times we think that if we go super quick, we can get that color put in. But if you go slow and make sure you're not going over your lines, you actually come out with a better product at the end than if you were to speed through it. Sometimes it's better just to make sure that things are going correctly. Every once in a while you might go outside the line on accident. That happens to all of us. That's why we have erasers. So if you do happen to go outside, you're going to be using an eraser to erase along that line. You can see that I'm using less pressure now as we get towards this center. It's starting to become lighter. So there's less of that blue. It's not as dark. We've moved into a medium blue, and we'll be moving into our super light blue soon. And from that light blue, we will be moving into our highlight where we don't have any color left. So once we get to that point, I'm going to go back and I'll look at my cylinder and I'll squint at it from a distance. Remember to kind of look back and squint and try to notice where you see those inconsistencies. Try to notice where you see it doesn't blend very well. And if you see those steps, you need to go back through and add a little bit more color and blend it to make it a nice smooth transition. Always that nice smooth transition. And remember, it's easier to go back and add more color later than it is to go too dark and have to erase color. Colored pencil doesn't always erase good from paper. There's always going to be some color left. So it's not a great idea to have to go back and erase. So it's easier if you make sure that you've gone a little lighter, and then if you have to add more later, that's always easier to do for yourself. And then it builds up those layers, which is what colored pencils are all about, is adding in those layers. Very carefully looking at balding. If we cover those up, make sure we don't have any of those white spaces. Using a really light hand and light pressure to do these really light lights. Alright, so there's our one side. I like to work on one side at a time. I decided where the middle was. This is where my highlight's going to be. I'm going to leave a pure white space right there. And then I'm going to work over here on the opposite side, doing the same thing, getting in that dark value. Remember, nice vertical lines. We shouldn't be changing the direction of our pencil during the cylinder. We want to keep our brain in the idea or understanding that the cylinder is tall, so we use these nice vertical lines. Continue on with the vertical. We're using our fingers to color this, maybe a little bit of our wrist, but we shouldn't be using our elbow to move. Our elbow should be stagnant as we use our fingers and our wrist to blend in this color. Once I get lighter, I start to move my hand away from the front of the pencil again, trying to create those lighter values. You want to keep your lines really vertical. Sometimes we see students that start to kind of turn their pencil in a circular motion. Sometimes they turn it into this motion. We don't want that. We want to keep it nice and vertical. Okay, straight up and straight down. Those are the directions we're using. So as we come into our lighter values, using less pressure, your highlight should be a really thin line. We don't want to see anything that's super thick. We want it to always be thinner. Okay, so if it's less than 1/8 of an inch, you're good. It should be pretty small. We don't need a large highlight. Just a little bit to show the brain that there's light reflecting off of the surface of this cylinder. Okay, I've kind of done that. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to squint at it, and you can see that this one's blended over here on the left a lot better than the one over here on the right. So I need to go back in here and add a little bit more value. See how we're getting that value kind of put in better. More of our dark mediums moving into our medium, then moving into our light values, and then into our highlight. Okay. The top of this cylinder will be shaded as well. You're going to be shading it using those horizontal lines, right? We're going to go with our lightest value. Like we did on the cube at the top, we want a really light blue for the top of this. You're not going to color it in a circular motion for this one. We're just going to be going left to right in nice horizontal lines. You can see how we go across there, nice horizontals, to get that filled in. Okay. Again, look for balding spots, look for areas that seem lighter than the rest of them. Always sit back and squint to make sure that you've done a good job catching all those. If there's anywhere you went over the lines, get your eraser, make sure you lightly erase. You don't need to push hard, especially if you were taking care not to go over the lines, then it won't be super dark. Okay? And that is our cylinder.